Hi, Bradley. How are you?
I'm good, Hannah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So today we're having an interview on NBC's newest sitcom, Young Rock. And so I'm super excited about this interview because we are talking about the different chapters of Dwayne Johnson and his life and the impact that he has made on this world and all the different stages that he has gone through. And so Bradley, can you tell us a little bit about your character and what's going on? Because, if I'm not mistaken, it's 15 years old you're playing, right?
Yeah, 15.
Dwayne Johnson. So what's going on?
Yeah,
15.
I'm 22 playing a 15-year-old. This must be an interesting story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So DJ at 15, he's oversized already. He's huge. He's got this ridiculous mustache going on, but he's still trying to impress this girl, fine ass Karen. So yeah. So he's trying to get all the coolest clothes, but he doesn't have the money to afford it. So he steals them and goes to all kinds of crazy measures to impress her. And it's a huge roller coaster of ups and downs. We just had our first date in the second episode, and it's really funny because it's interesting watching the balance of him. His relationship with his parents at home. There's real struggles that are going on, but he's also a kid and he's trying to have fun, and he wants to. He doesn't want to be bothered with other priorities and all this at the moment. But it's just a really interesting dynamic balancing both of those throughout the whole season.
Yeah, so at 15 years old, you experience puberty, you start liking girls, you think you're
Yeah.
the Mac, and so many things are just going on in, that 15-year-old head. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, at your young age, pursuing your acting career, what was it like for you to move to New York?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, it's kind of a similar situation for me because I, you know, I grew so much when I went to New York because
Yeah.
I was just I was really quiet when I was 15. Um, I talked to a couple people. I was tall as well. I was kind of awkward. And I did have a little peach fuzz dash going on. And I moved to New York and it was kind of this new start. And, I made friends there, and the kids in New York are wild. So, I definitely broke out of my shell real quick when I got there. And, it was crazy. I had my mom with me. She's super special. We moved with what we could in the back of a rental car and stayed in the attic of this couple's house up in just north of the city, and pursued it and just focused on the goal. And that's really special too, because in this show, for DJ, even at 15, his mom is his world. It's the most important thing to him. He'll sacrifice going to parties or anything for his mom. And of course, I would do the same for my mom because I would not have any of this if it wasn't for her. So, yeah, it's just really cool.
Yeah, I think parents play a big role in our success, especially when you have supportive parents who they're pushing you. They're pushing you to the next level, and they're always in your corner no matter what. After the fussing, the fighting, they're
Yeah,
there. They're there, and
yeah,
they're not changing. They're there for you to grow. And so
always.
what was it like just for you to tell this story of Dwayne Johnson? Like, what was going through your head when you were, trying to get into character, and you're like, what do I do? How did you prepare for this role?
Mhm. I think, it's interesting because partly on the surface, you're like, okay, I'm playing Dwayne Johnson. We watch all of his interviews and all of his new movies and everything. And of course, we get little tidbits of that, but more of it is just finding the groundwork, who he was. It's in the scripts, who he was as a kid. Even when I did my first audition for the show, that script, when I read it, wasn't like, oh, this is Dwayne Johnson, I'm going to try to be like him. It could have been any kid off the old block who, is trying to get some money from his mom so he can buy a car and impress this girl and anything, So for me, it was just, pulling a lot of myself into it, a lot of things that I was able to relate with, a lot of the home life and the school life, what was important to a 15-year-old, and, trying to make sure every day that I had that 15-year-old kid energy. You get older, you get more relaxed about things. You're like, yeah, whatever. Let me get a car, versus a kid's going to be like, excited, like, yo, we got to get a car. There's this girl. I got to impress her, So it's important for me bringing that 15-year-old energy, but also being very real and relatable because, you know, 15-year-olds emotions, you know, they're not really given enough credit for, you know, how mature they really already are at that point. They have a full understanding of stress and issues and anxieties, but also just being a kid trying to impress people. And that was the best part about leaning into this role.
What was the biggest challenge
Mm.
when getting into this role? Was there any?
I think, you know what, I've always looked at challenges like welcomingly. You
Mhm.
know, I think it's fun. That's what my life is. If I wasn't challenging myself, I'd be so bored and sad. You know,
Right.
so yeah, you know, there were tough things, but I wouldn't say it was super hard through them. You know, I never worked out before I booked this role. I've always played sports, been athletic, and I run a lot. But hitting the gym regularly was tough at first. It was really tough. You know, lifting weights and all that. But it's something I really fell in love with very quickly because it helps your mental state. It helped me lean into the character a lot more because that's also something that's important to him, and it really grounded me, and it's something that's stuck with me since we finished shooting even. So
And so, with fitness and getting in the fit,
yeah.
um, how have you continued to try to, stay fit, especially, has that been a thing for you to continue to, stay fit? Like, have you picked up any habits?
Yeah. No, I'm so much more motivated. It's funny, you know, you look at things like, oh, you reach a goal, they're all like, this is a dream of mine, you know. But and then you just chilling. Nah, I'm so much more motivated, and just I wake up every day thinking, oh my God, I gotta go work out. You know, so
Yeah.
and it's not, you know, I don't even know if we'll have a second season yet, but hopefully we do. So, you know, I'll keep working out and see whatever happens next. But it's, you know, it's bigger than even just this project now. It's something that I love doing.
Yeah. Thank you for your responses. And so, my last question, as you have had this opportunity to play, young rock, what can the viewers expect from you next? What's on
Well, you know what? They'll expect to see some surprises, but they'll
the
always see they'll always see me. I'll never change. I'll be myself, and I really hope to be a part of, you know, other projects that have great people involved in it like this. You know, we really have no egos. It's a really special thing to be a part of. Positive projects, things with a message, and you know, however long that takes and whatever comes next, I'm here for it, and I'm humbly grateful for all of it.
My first question for you would be, what was the relationship between Dwayne and his dad? What was that relationship?
They had a very complicated relationship, but for the show, Dwayne really wanted to focus on just the good. I mean, there's so much going on in the world right now. We just wanted to show the good of things, but it was definitely a very complicated one.
Yeah, and so, during COVID-19 and Dwayne trying to stay positive, trying to see the good in everyone. Was there any obstacles that occurred while trying to see the good in everything?
It, I remember in the beginning when I found out that I got this role, it was like February, end of February, and like 2 days later, the world shut down, and I was like bummed out because this was my big break. But you know, praise God, we eventually got to do it. We went out to Australia and ended up getting the show made.
So, how were you able, in your personal life, how were you able to relate to Dwayne Johnson?
Oh, in many ways, I was Dwayne. He wasn't raised with a silver spoon. Neither was I. He moved around a lot when he was younger. I did too. I went to probably like 10 different schools. um, but yeah, just he wanted to make a better life for himself to provide for his family, and I also want to do that.
Thank you for that response. When thinking of the actors and the directors, even knowing your background, who do you believe, who do you admire the most, as far as actors and directors, especially paving the way, especially in the African American community?
As far as actors go, I was a big James Avery fan. The way he could just like transition from drama to comedy and then voiceover on top of that. Like I would love to have a career like his.
So, in years to come, what else would you like to see in the film industry? What improvements would you like to see being made?
I mean, I think we're headed towards the right track as far as representation goes, with all ethnicities and cultures. So it'll be nice to see where we're at in about 2 or 3 years, see where things are going to be going.
That's good. So, do you believe that we're going to see just more representation as far as people from, different races, ethnicities, things like that?
Oh, definitely going to happen.
Okay. I'll hold you to it. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to call you up.
Oh, it's not my fault. I know on our show, we got tons of representation.
Most definitely. And so how do you think that with African Americans, being in the show, how do you think that has improved as far as viewers watching? What does that say to young men in society?
I think it says a lot, and not just, we have African Americans, but we also have like a big Polynesian cast as well, with the Samoans and Tongans and things like that. So we're just showing that, like, there's more people out there in the world, as you could say.
And so I know that you have appeared in Harriet.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
American Soul, Timeless. You're all over. You're doing it big time. And so how have these roles developed you as an actor? How have they helped your career?
They helped a lot. I mean, I think as far as my career, it was definitely just to get out there and work. I didn't know anybody, nothing was handed to me. I had to really work my way up. And, the longer I was in it, the roles got better and better until finally we're here.
We made it. So what keeps you motivated? What has kept you motivated, especially during COVID-19, filming Young Rock and, trying to remain in character? What has kept you just motivated to keep you pushing?
Definitely. I want to retire my mom in about 3 years. That's like my only motivation to act, I would say. It's like really want to give my mom like an amazing life. And that keeps me going.
That's good. That's the goal. And I think that we should continue to have goals and set goals. So we know what to look forward to. And we know how, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to achieve it. So it's always good to have a game plan. And so in the future, do we see any future projects? Can the fans look out for anything? What's going on with you?
Hey, right now we're just taking one day at a time. Nothing in the future so far.
I wanted to first start off with the question, what was it like being 18 to 20 years old?
It was a big throwback for me. I'm a little bit older now.
Yeah.
But it was kind of nice, kind of stepping into those shoes again and remembering, I guess, what it was like to really have the world at your feet, in a sense. You're probably less jaded by life at that age, and so you're really optimistic, and the world is at your feet, and you can really chase anything you put your mind to. So it was kind of nice to be there. I still feel that same way now at my age, but it was kind of nice to have the world kind of like options are open kind of situation for me.
So what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
20. Pull your head in is what I would say. Do you have that phrase in America? Pull your head in?
Yes.
It means, yeah. It's so I was getting up to a lot of nonsense when I was 20. So I would have said, look, you might want to hit the straight and narrow a little bit. But also, I did a lot of those things kind of because I didn't have any sense of direction really. So for me, it was kind of I would say to myself, just settle down and just do the basics.
So were you able to connect with Dwayne Johnson as far as starring in that role?
Yeah, we had a Zoom shortly after we were cast, and we had a really lengthy conversation about kind of his personal life that related to the show and that kind of thing. And he was really just the coolest human being you could ever meet. Just really present, really relatable, honest, open. So we had that chat and a few follow-ups after that. But he's a very busy man, so I didn't want to be knocking at his door like every hey Dwayne, what do you think about?
Yeah. So what tips did he give you that you've used, while being in this role?
Really just to have fun, just to enjoy the role. And, he'd given me and the other guys his vote of confidence and said, we chose you because you're the right guys. So really just to enjoy it. And the show's so well written. So really just to sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. And while at the National Institute of Dramatic Art, what did you learn that you now use while you're in different roles?
I mean, first of all, I learned how to break down a play because I'm theatre trained mostly. So kind of looking at the play in its entirety and then looking at a piece of work scene by scene and then the character work, a lot of the stuff that I learned. But really, I wouldn't say I even have a process at the moment. It's kind of dependent on the script or dependent on the project. But those are the fundamental things about how to see things, how to get into a character and how to kind of what I like to call mining stuff out of the script. So, and then where to stand and how not to carry your hands.
So when starring in the comedy series Sando, the third season also of the 9 networks, Doctor, and Haro, what did you take away? What was the takeaways from those series?
Just to keep refining, like you get some roles are tiny and some roles are a little bit bigger, et cetera, but it's all a learning curve. And for me, I'm always just honored when I get a role and I get an opportunity to train. Really, is an opportunity to kind of practice. Did this work? Did this not work? You could do that better. And that's really my takeaway from those shows, as well as friendships. I've kept a lot of those cast members as friends, so that's always a plus.
So speaking of training, did you need a trainer when trying to get fit?
I did. I worked with my brother, who's a personal trainer, but it was more the nutrition side that I got some help there. Eating about 6,000 calories a day, which is a lot of food. But yeah, trained a lot, about 5 or 6 days a week, mostly 5, so I could get sufficient rest. But I come from a sports background. I used to play rugby union, which is kind of growing in the States.
Yeah.
But I enjoy physical activity in general, so it wasn't too much of a stretch.
And that's good because there's sports in here. There's wrestling, football. We go through it all, and so this is right up your alley.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's got all the elements.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny. It's like, oh my God! Like I said, did this really just happen?
Yeah, I was just saying to someone previously that that's probably the danger of the show is that you don't realize that some of these stories actually happen because they're so wild. Like that waffle story is a true story. Like that actually happened. So that's kind of the cool thing about the show.
So when you found out that some of these stories were real, how did you react? Like, were you like, whoa, or how did that?
I mean, it's like you can't believe it. It's like, how does this happen to one individual? And also, you know, like he grew up, his father was a professional wrestler. And so a lot of the wrestlers would come over to his home, as you see in the show. And he was, you know, Uncle Sheik was there, you know, these Andre the Giant, you know, these are wrestling icons that I grew up watching. So, you know, that was all part of his normal life, which that in itself is crazy.
Yeah. And so, as we conclude, what is one thing that you would tell young actors?
Young actors, I would say to keep, it's going to sound like a cliche, but to keep learning. You know, use every opportunity you can to refine and to stay open and not lock down things. Just stay open, stay fluid, and keep learning. It's really the best advice that I can give is, you know, unless you're dead, which you're not, you should always be learning, you know, and that goes right across the board. So
Thank you.
that would be my
Thank you
advice.
so much. Thank you so much. I think someone told me, "You'll sleep when you're dead," and that was the bitter reality. I was like, I was tired one time, and that's the bitter reality. You'll sleep when you're dead.
Yeah.
You have to keep learning, keep pushing, and you're never too old, never too young to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So again, I thank you so much for this interview. I wish you much, much, much success in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Thanks, Hannah. No problem.